Bettor Sports Betting is your home for picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm on YouTube, Twitter, the BSN app, wherever you're watching. We appreciate you guys joining us here on a Monday. We got almost a full slate of games, plenty of teams in action tonight for the Major League Baseball schedule to dive into. And I got Howard Bender here on this Monday to give out some picks. What's up, Howard?
What's up? We don't have anything close to a full schedule tonight for MLB. This is a short little slate. This is just like a little beanie baby slate. One day game. We got one starting at 6:40, and then what do we got? We got like 7 or 8 games later on tonight. Man, I was like diving through stuff trying to find something that I liked all morning long just to pop it up for the show on this tiny little baby slate.
Yeah, I guess it's not a full 15 game slate, but I mean, still it's better than the 3 or 4 gamers that sometimes I know there's one coming up, I think on Thursday that we got. Just kind of looking ahead, I'm like, oh, well, that's going to be a rough one. So we'll see. We'll get to that. But, yeah, I mean, just enough games to dive into. And I know we both have some picks for you guys. If you got any questions, comments, picks you want to give out to us, definitely hit us up in the chat, and we'll respond to those. We'll answer your questions that you got for tonight's Major League Baseball games or anything sports betting related. We got Andrew Cooper coming on. At in about 20 minutes here, 15, 20 minutes to talk some NFL prop totals, NFL odds for the upcoming season. He got a great article up on fantasyalarm.com, so you can pull that up as well. But it's just kind of breaking down some fantasy football ADP compared to some prop totals that are out there on DraftKings Sportsbook or wherever, and just trying to find value in some of the wide receivers' yardage totals. So we'll bring him on to talk some of those and give us some winning picks that he made and looked at last year, and kind of looking right into this year, which guys he thinks might be a little undervalued or overvalued in terms of the betting market compared to fantasy football ADP and vibes. We got NFL training camps starting up, and already have some injury news out there, and we have some articles up on the site right now. Actually, Kadarius Toney is an injury that you got to monitor for the Chiefs wide receivers. Nyheim Hines now looks like a season-ending injury for that Bills backfield. So this all moves some betting markets as well as fantasy football stuff. But in the betting, obviously, side of things, like you're looking at overs on some of these Chiefs receivers. With Tony's injury news, this all stuff we'd dive into this whole off season, and we'll definitely touch on that with Coop today. But yeah, let's just kind of dive right into baseball, because we got to get some picks out to the people before we bring Coop on. So our best bets for tonight on this Monday slate. What do you got for your top pick here?
For my best bet, I'm just going to go real simple with a prop. Freddie Freeman over half a run scored. It's -110 on BetMGM. It just seems like a real easy prop to throw down a little bit of money on, because I mean, Freddie Freeman, he's over his last 30 at bats, he's 14 for 30, which is a 467 average. I think he scored like 8 runs over his last 6 games. A couple of home runs in there. I mean, Freddie Freeman, he's destroying right-handed pitching. This is not a tough matchup for him or the Dodgers for that matter. And so, I mean, to see Freddie Freeman to score a run tonight at -110, I'll load it up.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I wrote up Freddie Freeman as a option of his fantasy points player prop over at the Underdog Fantasy article that I do every day over in Fantasy Alarm. So you could check that out for some more analysis. And I'll just piggyback right off of that, because one of my picks is going Freddie Freeman over his 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. So I'll take your runs scored. I'll take 2 runs scored for this one. But you mentioned he's been on fire right now since the All-Star break, hitting .441 with a 1450 OPS. He's been over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 6 straight games coming into tonight. and 18 of the past 22, if you kind of go back a little bit throughout July and even in the end of June. But he's been on fire here. And, I think that he's going to be in a good spot with Jose Berrios. Worse splits on the road for Berrios, allows some better numbers to left-handed hitters compared to righties. And Freeman has, that split on his favor too. 337 batting average against right-handed pitching this year. And in his career against Berrios, to both of our credits here, 1 for 3 with a home run in his limited sample size. But, we'll take a home run to go over both these props. So, yeah, I like your call on Freeman here. I think he'll keep the hot streak going.
Yeah, it's just you can't bet against him right now. Everything that he's been doing all season long has been absolutely fantastic. So, if you're catching him in a hot streak right now, you got to, I always say you ride the wave until it breaks. If this is what, if they're giving you, and, you kind of have to dig in and search around for props like, 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBI at -150 on DraftKings, rock solid there. It's like, why is the half a run? Why is, over half a run? Why is that just, still at -110? What are they thinking? Are they thinking that he's just, going to be the RBI machine? Are they thinking that something's not going to happen? Nobody's going to knock him in a little further down the order. Freddie Freeman hits in the top 3 of that batting order on the regular. So I'm not really that concerned over it. And, just, lob in a prop like that for me, I'll do it. I mean, I did it over at rtsports.com, their pick'em contest today. That was one of my picks. It was like Freddie Freeman over half a run. Yes, please.
Yeah, and to your credit, he's been scoring more runs lately than RBIs actually, which is, he's getting on base, whether it's walking or hitting, and, other guys are hitting him in. So, yeah, I like that call. Freeman, you mentioned it. He's one of those hitters, the multiple parts of the season, when he gets on a hot streak like this, you just got to ride him until he cools off. He's gone through lulls, and I've, gone off of him at times, but he's just one of those hitters this year. When he gets going like this, different guys like Kyle Tucker recently has been one of those where he's just every game, it seems he's like producing. Freeman right now for sure. Ohtani, obviously, when he was on that streak, that homer streak, it was just like you got to ride them until they cool off, because you'll come out ahead more often than not, I think. So, hopefully he keeps it going for both of us tonight. All right, my best bet for tonight, I'm going with the Rangers-Astros over 8.5. I got it -122 on FanDuel. I think negative regression is coming for both these pitchers in this game. John Gray has a 4.48 FIP and a 4.43 expected ERA compared to his pretty good 3.31 ERA this year. He's got strong road numbers, but also a 3.93 FIP on the road. Low BABIP, high left on base rate compared to like his career marks. So I think he could be in trouble here on the road against an Astros team that's 339 WOBA, 220 ISO versus right-handed pitching since the All-Star break. So I like the Astros side of things. And then Brandon Bielak, and I think you have a pick coming up, fading Bielak or fading this game too, looking at some of the over. But Brandon Bielak is a guy we've faded a lot this year, and he's just really due for aggression. 5.48 expected ERA, 5.14 FIP compared to his 3.46 ERA this year. Also a guy with a high left on base rate right now. Low strikeout to walk ratio is worrisome against a Rangers team that's just crushing righties all season. And since the All-Star break, a 362 WOBA, 226 ISO versus righties. So I think, Bielak, if you look at his like home ERA, it's pretty good, but he's also had favorable home matchups. Rockies, the A's, Twins at the beginning of the season when they were down, Mariners too. Just like, when he faces the Rangers here, though, it's just kind of a different animal. And he just allowed 5 runs to the Reds last month at home too. So I think like regression's coming for him. I like the full game over here, 8.5. Not too bad of a number. I think that we could get, double-digit runs here for both teams.
I don't really know if you can even call it negative regression or anything like that, because Bielak sucks anyway. I mean, listen, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the matchup, right? His last 3 starts, 2 against the Rockies, 1 against Seattle. The Rockies can't hit their way out of a paper bag, even if they're hitting at cores. They still suck. And then the Mariners are striking out at nearly 30% of the time. Doesn't matter if it's a lefty or a righty on the mound. They're just they keep missing the ball on the regular. So I think Belock against this Texas lineup is no good. And yeah, I gotta pick a little later on. We'll have to see. Is it my diamond dog or is it going to be possibly my my daily dinger? We'll just have to wait and see there. But I'm in on this Astros. I'm a little more bullish on Gray, I guess, than you are, simply because with the exception of Kyle Tucker, I don't know anybody on Houston who's actually hitting with any kind of consistency over the past 2 weeks. They've been pretty bad, but again, home start for them, hitter friendly ballpark. And yeah, they know that they're going to have to offer up some run support because Belak is just not going to contain the Rangers tonight.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the Corey Seager injury for the Rangers. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, but he is on the injured list now, so you just kind of have to take that into account of the Rangers having one less bat. But I still think the rest of this lineup's really getting it done. I still like it.
Yeah, Marcus Simeon's going to have to wake up a little bit, which is why I've got him over 1.5 total bases tonight. All right, minus 105 on BetMGM. Listen, I get it. He's gone 0 in 2 of his last 3 games, but Simeon's kind of a little bit of a streaky guy. He'll hit for he'll hit like a monster for 4 or 5 games, and he'll quiet down for a game or 2, and then he'll turn right back around. And he'll pack it back up again. So, I think Simeon's hit safely in each of his last 2. The 2 games before that, he's been like, meh, meh. So, give me Simeon over 1.5 total bases again, because Belak is not gonna contain this lineup.
Yeah, I don't think Belak is gonna have too much success. You mentioned the Rangers are also a team that they don't strike out a ton versus righties, but in general, they also draw a lot of walks. So it's like Belak I mentioned his K to walk ratio is low, and it's just a little worrisome when you're facing this lineup. So. Yeah, good call on the semi. And he's a guy that's got to step up now even more with Seager out. I mean, he's going to really take the reins of that top of the order for the Rangers. So,
no doubt.
Yeah. Another pick all throughout here. I'll go back to the Dodgers game. We like Freeman here. I like the Dodgers money line too. Minus 120 on FanDuel. It seems like a toss up because, on the one side you got Jose Barrios going for the Blue Jays, and we got Michael Grove going for the Dodgers. And Grove probably should be an underdog here, but I still like the Dodgers as to win this game. Grove's a guy, we could talk about this quickly, but he's a guy that might be traded at the deadline, right? Like he's a prime candidate that the Dodgers might be looking to ship one of their young pitchers out if they're trying to acquire, a Scherzer, a Verlander, Ohtani. And I feel like this is a thing where it could go either way. But I feel like Grove might be trying to, a little bit more motivation to pitch well, to show that maybe he should earn that and keep that spot in the rotation with the Dodgers, or trying to showcase himself. But he was impressive his last start with 5 innings of 1-run ball against Baltimore. He hasn't been great this year for the most part, obviously, but he does have better numbers at home than on the road. So I like that in his favor. But the other side is where I do feel a lot more confident. I just think the Dodgers are just hammering right-handed pitching since the All-Star break. A 402 WOBA, 218 ISO, and Barrios has worse numbers on the road this year. The Dodgers, by the way, 7-1. They haven't played 7-1 in their first game back at home following a road trip. They haven't played at home since the All-Star break. This is their first home game, which is I think it's just an underlying little factor of these hitters, the pitchers, everyone is going to be a lot more comfortable today after this long road trip after the All-Star break. And just that record, 7-1 in their first games back at home following a road trip. And the Blue Jays, kind of another little underlying factor here. The Blue Jays, I think they could be in for a little letdown because they just came off a hard-fought series versus Seattle where if you watch those games, they basically played in front of home crowds. We had a lot of Toronto fans traveling there. They kind of took over the park there because the Jays are a lot more relevant in the wild card picture than the Mariners right now. So It was interesting to kind of see that playing in front of mostly a home crowd. They did well, won yesterday, but I think maybe a little bit of a letdown going here on the road to LA. So yeah, give me the Dodgers money line.
I think working in your favor also is if you look at these two teams, their bullpens over the past, even just go for the past week. The Dodgers have the second best ERA, 1.21 ERA over their last 22 and a third innings over the last 7 days. So worked a little, yeah, but still very, very successful. Toronto, meanwhile, over their last 7 days, 21 innings thrown out of the bullpen, a 5.57 ERA. Just not looking good at all. So I think that just lends some support to taking the Dodgers on the money line for that pick. So I could definitely dig that. My next one here, I'm just going to go to Royals and Guardians. And then and just quickly here, I'm just taking the first 5 innings, under 5 runs. We all know that the Guardians suck against lefties. We all know that the Royals suck against lefties. You got Ryan Yarbrough, who's been fairly decent over his last 3 outings. And then you've got Logan Allen, who's a decent left-handed pitcher who, has had a modicum of success in recent weeks. So, just to see both these lineups, how they struggle against lefties, I'll just, take the under 5 for the first 5 innings and just hope it stays a low-scoring game. The bullpens can blow up later if they want. I don't care. I got it for -120 on BetMGM, so boom.
I like that one a lot. I almost went with the full game under here, but I like your first 5 bet even more, so I'll probably tail that because, yeah, the Cleveland offense on the worst end of their splits this year, they're better offense against righties than lefties. And, the Royals they're bad against everyone. So I don't think they're doing much to get this game over. So, yeah, the first 5, though, is where I feel most confident. Leave the bullpens out of it. All right, my next pick here, I'm going with the Padres run line, -1.5, and it's -125 on BetMGM. But I think even though at home here, you're a little more hesitant to do the run line, but Padres versus the Pirates here, I just have a lot of confidence in the Padres. Darvish looked more like himself his last 2 starts, impressive outings against the Phillies and the Blue Jays. And he's a guy that's due for some positive aggression, 3.56 expected ERA compared to a 4.36 ERA this year. He's got, compared to his career marks, his left on base rate and BABIP are a lot worse than they've been. So this is a guy that I think he's starting to have these better outings. And I think another one definitely is coming here against Pittsburgh, who have been bad against righties all season, especially since the All-Star break. Like the second worst in the league. But I think Darvish at home is going to have, he's got better numbers at home than on the road too.
Much better.
And the other side, it's San Diego's, they've also been really good since the All-Star break against righties, 3.27 WOBA. And they got Quentin Priester for the Pirates, his second career start. He got roughed up for 7 runs against Cleveland in his MLB debut last week. I don't think he's going to fare much better or worse, than 7 runs, but he's probably going to give up around 5 or 6 in this start. And the Pirates pen behind him doesn't give me much confidence either. So I like the Padres here.
Nothing about the Pirates gives me much confidence. Nothing about them. So I can dig that. Last game I want to touch on here. I don't know if you've got more, but it's just the Reds going up against the Brewers. Tonight, it's Graham Ashcraft against Colin Rea. Ashcraft's thrown 4 straight quality starts with a 1.82 ERA in that span. He's looked rock solid. That goes back to like his 2 starts before the break and 2 starts after the break. So we've seen him kind of turn a little bit of a corner there. Now, the Reds are 2-8 against the Brewers in their last 10 games, against them. But, I mean, come on, Colin Rea, that dude's given up 8 earned runs over 9 2/3 innings against the Reds just this season. 2 outings against them, he's gotten beaten up. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a chance here, and I'm gonna take the Reds on the money line -105 on Caesars. And then you know what? Just because I'm feeling a little frisky, I'm gonna say Matt McClain over half a run. Because for some reason, Caesars is giving me +105 on that one. So, yes, please. Matt McClain over half a run. Reds on the money line. against the Milwaukee Brewers. Colin Rea. I mean, the Reds won 5 in a row, right? They look great again.
Yeah, the Reds. Yeah, I looked at the Reds today too because they're starting to pick it up again. They hit that lull. They got swept by the Brewers right after the All-Star break, but they're now back in the thick of things, and they need this game or a couple games in this new series with the Brewers to just make that division more interesting. So I like that call, and then get plus money on McLean. Not bad.
Right. I mean, that's his specialty. He hits, near the top of the lineup there. He's like Mr. Singles hitter, and you let Ellie De La Cruz knock him in on the regular.
My last pick before we talk some NFL with Andrew Cooper here. My last pick is Bryson Stott over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, minus 145 on DraftKings. This is a guy that, honestly, if I wasn't a Phillies fan, I probably wouldn't pay as much attention to him. But he's quietly just like a hit machine this year. I mean, in the league leaders and like hits, 2-strike hits. He's a great 2-strike hitter. But he's hitless in his last 2 games. And believe it or not, we talk about like Luis Ariz, not going hitless in multiple games in a row. He has not gone hitless. Stott has in 3 straight games all season without a hit. So he's gone hitless these last 2. He drew 4 walks yesterday. I think he gets back on the train today, hitting 363 with a 991 OPS in the month of July. He's on fire. And he's got Dean Kramer here who, 4.80 ERA, 5.64 expected ERA. He's allowing a 3.02 batting average to left-handed hitters this year. And Stott himself has got some good splits, 3.14 batting average at home, 2.99 batting average against right-handed pitching. So I like Stott to get back on the train here over his hits, runs, RBIs prop.
Listen, you're Mr. Phillies, so I will happily defer to you. Like when you find like a little nugget like that he hasn't gone hitless in 3 straight games all season, like you have to pay attention to that. I think I've talked about it here with you. I did that with Vladimir Guerrero like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
dude he'd go over, and then the next game he would immediately light it up again. So I just kept hammering like his total bases prop the day after an over, and it crushed. So I got you on that.
All right, let's flip gears to NFL. And by the way, if you haven't already, go get the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide that's up right now online. You can get it for free if you have the All-Pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm, or you can get it for $26.99. But yeah, this draft guide is everything you need from best ball drafts, dynasty drafts, rookie drafts, rankings, off-season news, everything, draft strategies. And one guy that's got a bunch of articles up there for the site in this draft guide is Andrew Cooper. And we're bringing Andrew on right now to talk some NFL, fantasy, betting, all of it combined. What's up, man?
Somebody say football? Come running right away, dude. I just I sit here with my light on and my camera on, just waiting for somebody to let me on to talk football. So
you've been a busy guy. You got a new show?
I have a tablet right now looking at Bryson Stott. So I might be getting down some baseball today, but football, man. Let's go.
Yeah, you got your new show that's live right now, right?
Yeah. We had the first episode Monday. Just had one about an hour ago with guest Scott Fish to talk quarterbacks. That's all up on YouTube, on Fantasy Alarm, also up on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. So we're doing good here.
All right. Sweet. Well, I mean, we gotta take the fantasy out of your mouth now.
Get it out.
And we got to talk about the prospects, because I mean, listen, I think it's fantastic, and I've long been a proponent of mixing fantasy with sports betting, because I mean they do go hand in hand. You think about it, when somebody's like, "Oh, I don't know who to start in my lineup, this, or this guy." Well, what do the props say? Like the prop says that this guy's gonna, his over under is 75.5 yards. This dude's over under is 52.5 yards. You tell me which guy you want, because even if that other guy hits the under, right, on his 75.5, chances are he's probably still beating what the other guy's doing. And so the fact that people kind of miss out on that, I think is it's just a huge disservice to your own fantasy game or your own betting game for that matter. So let's talk about this article here. I love the way you have it here, identifying wide receiver values using their NFL player, their props. And let's talk about it, because Devontae Adams versus AJ Brown, don't care what the ADP is. Let's talk about what Vegas is telling you. Vegas is telling you who is going to end up being, or could end up being, the more valuable asset.
Yeah, for real. Howard, you hit the nail on the head there. Like, just think about people, like interactions with people. Has it ever been a good idea when everyone says like, oh, I'll just do it myself, right? I'll do it myself. That's like such a stubborn thing to say. Everyone wants to do it themselves without incorporating stuff like this. Why don't we look at the odds when we do our picks or fantasy, and also look at ADP when we're dealing with these odds, right? See what the public's saying on both sides. So that was the first one, the one you pointed out, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams. AJ Brown goes ahead of Devontae Adams in virtually every single draft, right? But if you look at the lines on a site like DraftKings, they have Devontae Adams' reception set at 99.5. 99. They have his yards at 1,300, touchdowns at 8.5. That projects out to 280 fantasy points. AJ Brown, they have less in every category, and not even just a little less. Adams is at 99 receptions. AJ Brown's at 75 with their book. Adams is at 1,300. AJ Brown's at 1,050. Even touchdowns. Adams 8.5. AJ Brown 7.5. So if you look at the ADP and you look at that, there's two ways to go with this, right? You could bet the under on Devontae Adams if you really, truly don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo in that situation. You could bet the over on AJ Brown, or you could fade AJ Brown and draft Devontae Adams. There's a lot of ways to use this information to your advantage. So that's what the article is about, is getting you the information. Now, me personally, the way I've analyzed this is I looked at every sports book, not just DraftKings, right. Caesars, MGM, FanDuel. I could not find one place that had AJ Brown ahead in any of these numbers. So I just put it, AJ Brown, I put the yellow tape around him for fantasy drafts, and I'm actually willing to bet the over on his numbers. So I'm betting on AJ Brown I'm basically taking the side of the market, right? Everyone loves him for fantasy. I'll bet the over. I know betting overs is tough because injury can get you too, but I'm willing to bet the over, and I'll save myself from that disappointment in fantasy. So that's one example of how you can use this article and use this info.
Another interesting comparison here, Mike Evans versus Chris Godwin. Both in the same offense there in Tampa Bay, and we got Baker Mayfield behind center, presumably for this season. But how do you kind of view Evans versus Godwin? Evans has a higher yardage line on DraftKings by 150 yards over Godwin, but Godwin's the guy's going higher in fantasy drafts right now in terms of ADP. So what do you kind of make of that, comparing these guys?
Yeah. Now, the thing you have to be careful with is that the gambling books and the community, they're trying to take advantage of public sentiment. So in this case, I actually, and John and Pembo would personally scold me if I sided with Baker Mayfield on one of these bets. But when I look at these lines, I think that what's happening is Mike Evans has had 1,000 yards every season, and these books are basically saying, you know what, we can get people to bet the over on Mike Evans by just setting it anywhere under 1,000, and people will say, oh well, he always has 1,000, so let's bet it. But me personally, I'm willing to, even though I'm a Mike Evans fan, bet the under on that line. And again, you get 2 outs because injuries help you out, and he's missed games in the past. But when I see these ones, I think that's what they're trying to do. Now, when I look at the Chris Godwin line, that honestly looks low for me. And Howard, I want to get your take on this, because we've talked about this in the past, and we believe that Baker Mayfield, probably his skill set translates better to Chris Godwin. They got him set down so low, as Servo mentioned. We're talking 775 yards. He hasn't had under 800 yards since his rookie season. So, Howard, what are your thoughts on that? Does that scare you off from Godwin in fantasy, or are you considering maybe taking the over on something like that?
No, listen, the funny thing is that, I don't know. Vegas builds these over-unders a lot off of algorithms, where they start taking, what the player has done. They factor in what the QB has done as far as, passing yards and things like that. The one thing that I question, and this is something that's going to be very interesting to watch this year, because there are 16 new offensive coordinators. You only have like 4 or 5 new head coaches, but you've got 16 new offensive coordinators. Is Vegas adjusting the lines based on what they know of these systems, or are they just still basing the lines off of what their algorithms are reading off of last year's data. And that's where I find it incredibly, interesting when you look at, Godwin versus Evans. Yes, Baker Mayfield, the system that Dave Canales is putting in to Tampa Bay, it favors a lot more of Baker Mayfield, quick release. He wants to get rid of the ball nice and quickly. Nothing more than, like a 2 or a 3-step drop and then try and deliver the football. That in turn tilts more towards Godwin working out of the slot than it does Mike Evans trying to, run a full route and trying to get it that way. So like for me, yeah, I sit there and I look at something like that. We could also talk about Cortland Sutton versus Jerry Jeudy, because I know that's another big example of this as well. I know the scheme that Joe Lombardi runs. Has Vegas taken into account what the X receiver has done over the last, how many years has Joe Lombardi been, between New Orleans and Los Angeles? Like, so that's one of the things where, you look at certain things and you say, well, is the book right or is the book wrong on this one? So I think for the book to sit there and move down Chris Godwin's numbers because they're bullish on Mike Evans, I think is crazy. To have Jerry Jeudy's numbers higher than those of Cortland Sutton, I think is a mistake. I think Cortland Sutton's props are both, receptions was at like 55.5. Passing yards, I think you tweeted that out, that it dropped from like 700 to 650.5. I mean, I'm not sure what the books are seeing or thinking on that front, but to me, that's way off base, and I'll hammer those overs just because I think the books are wrong.
And I got proof of that exact concept, Howard, from last year. And anyone that read your current series you have out now with all the coaching systems last year might have been in front of this one. But Jalen Waddle, they had his over-under last year set very low because he was a 7-yard ADOT player as a rookie. Mike McDaniel comes in where it's 2 outside wide receivers and no slot wide receiver. And, it's Deebo Samuel Ayuk, and his ADOT goes up to 13 yards, and he smashes the over. The algorithms aren't going to pick that up. So that's why in the draft guide, people should be checking out your coaching systems, because you're the one that actually sits down and says, here's what's changing. Here's what might happen. And with your Cortland Sutton take, it's exactly that. I've had people that have mischaracterized what they do or what they've done as the slot guy benefiting it. And it's because of Marquise Colston, right? He was the big slot guy. They confuse Colston with Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is not the big slot. He's the slant guy from the split end X position, like you point out. So I'm with you on that, man. Plus 650, I don't know, maybe unless the 650 over under yardage total, unless they know about some injury that we don't know about, I just don't see why that line would come down to there. I'm much more willing to make that bet at that number. So yeah, give me that all day long. Or maybe it's these trade rumors to New England or things like that we've been hearing a little bit about. So maybe there's some of that in there, but I don't know, man. Cortland Sutton, wherever he goes, 650 just feels low for him.
It seems like some of these yards lines, like DraftKings, whatever sportbook, it seems like they're trying to cover themselves a little bit by setting it a little bit lower, because a lot of people, like you were saying, like injuries, whatever, underperforming, they don't want to get burned by a lot of unders. And like the Mike Evans line, they're begging people to take the over there. But right. So maybe that's like part of it. But one of the guys that's kind of related right to that is Deebo Samuel, who was really one of the big notable underperformers last year with his yards prop. And, he dealt with, that quarterback situation and some injuries, but his ADP is a lot higher than his receiving yards line, with his rushing production probably has something to do with that. But what are you doing with his lower receiving yards line this year, like compared to last year, and how much of a talent we know he is?
Well, you kind of hit on it right there. And this is why it's so difficult to do this for running backs, but it's very easy for wide receivers, is that with running backs, you have to account for receptions, receiving yards, rushes, rushing yards, and touchdowns, receiving touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. Just putting the whole prop profile together is very difficult. With wide receiver, it's easier. I'm even in August, I'm going to come out with another update on this that has all the lines. Right now, they're still kind of trickling in. But the yards always come in early. Later we get more reception and yard and touchdown props. But Deebo Samuel is the exact example that his ADP is always going to be higher because of the carries, because that he's capable of even last year, like 40 carries while he was getting hurt. So that's always going to be part of it. But man, they have him set so low at 725 yards, and they have Brandon Ayuk higher at 800. 2 years ago, me and John and Pemba sat down and told everybody that would listen that Ayuk was going ahead of Samuel in drafts, but the sports books like Debo better. So we were like, get on Debo. This year, it's the complete opposite. They like Ayuk better. They have Ayuk ahead of both Kittle and Debo. So at value, I just feel like Ayuk's going to be the better option, even with the carries. And the problem with the carries, like, that's great and all for best ball, but it's redraft season now. Like, best ball is fine, but now we're talking about real fantasy leagues where you have to set your lineup every week. And I don't know if anybody had Curtis Samuel in 2020, but playing the guessing game of when or not he's going to have a 15-yard rushing touchdown, there you go, Howard. It was every once in a while, it was awesome. Most weeks, though, it's like he catches 2 passes for 15 yards, or he has a carry for -5 yards, and that's just like, right? It's like, so in best ball, fine, but just playing that guessing game is so tough that I'm staying away from Debo in my leagues where I set lineups personally.
I'm gonna make a note for myself to write that article that just entitled "The Books Are Wrong, Motherfucker." Right, they're so off. One more for me, Coop. I know you're a busy guy. I don't want to keep you too long here. Any other undervalued wide receiver totals that you're looking at? Like, you're looking at somebody's props and you're like, I just don't understand it. It could be receptions, it could be yards, whatever you want.
Yeah. So in terms of betting, there's a couple guys that have been steamed up that are much higher than where they should be. The number one would be DJ Moore in terms of 80. So this is one you can use in ADP. The Vegas does not like DJ Moore, and he's going very early. So he's a guy that you can fade. One that you can probably bet is a guy like Chris Olave, where Vegas actually really likes Chris Olave compared to ADP, surprisingly. So if based on the ADP and based on where they have him, Chris Olave betting the over on his number, even at 1,000 yards, or T Higgins, those are two I like. A lot of the second wide receivers, the wide receiver twos, those are guys that Vegas likes a lot better than ADP. So you can draft those guys in that situation. Guys like Tyler Lockett, guys like Devonta Smith, guys like T Higgins. Those are all being favored in that sense. Guys that you want to bet against are guys like Mike Williams is one. Vegas does not like. Vegas is also Christian Watson, another guy that we should probably be betting the under on if you go by Vegas. And just because Jordan Love, we don't know what's going on there. There's a number of them. And again, I lay it out in the article as best I can, but betting the unders mathematically is the way to go. If you go through these lines and you see anybody that you think that the line set too high, take that bet simply because unders hit about 60% of the time on these bets, and you have 2 outs. You have them just not producing and also injury. So check that one out. But I got to say, when I look at ADP, but I would look at Vegas, I think Vegas in a lot of places is a little sharper than ADP personally.
Great stuff from Coop. Last one for me before we let you go here. I wanted to ask you about this whole Kadarius Toney situation with his injury scare here in training camp, and how that maybe might affect this Chiefs wide receiver core, because I was actually just looking on DraftKings to see if his yards prop was still up there, and it looks like they took it down. But your article, you have it listed, what was it, 630.5 was his total yards prop, which is lower than what his ADP might say, or did say before this whole injury thing. But what do you kind of make of this situation for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, they're propping up his value by having his all the guys around him in terms of yardage. They have him at 5.5 touchdowns. All the rest of those guys are at 4.5. That's probably what people are leaning on. But to be honest, my policy is not to guess who's going to get hurt. But if they're hurt while I'm drafting, I'm out. Like there's no reason to draft injured players that are currently injured. That's where I stand on it. Like, you're just setting yourself up for a season like Odell Beckham Jr. or Michael Thomas when they were injured already, right? Like right now, I'm not going to fade Michael Thomas because he's not hurt. But if he has one calf strain or hamstring or anything, he's out. And I'll tell you what, this Kadarius Toney news, you don't want to root for injury, but a guy named Dan Servodidio, very sharp fella, during the NFL draft, while I was live, you came on when Rashee Rice got picked, and you popped in. We had a quick segment, and you said, "Hey, right now, he's plus 5,000 for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he just got drafted by the Chiefs." And on my second screen, I went over and I laid $100 on that to win 5 G.
There you go.
In that moment. I know, Howard, you're in too. So, no, you don't root for injury.
Laid that action too.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't root for injury, but if my man Servo says we're betting this guy and guys happen to get hurt and that helps me out, so be it, right? So Rashee Rice has got to be on everyone's radar. This is a guy that profiles kind of like a Keenan Allen or a DeAndre Hopkins. Not particularly fast, but he's fast enough. And contested catches is his game. 16 contested catches last year. Put the ball up, this guy finds it, man. And Patrick Mahomes, he can put the ball up in places that are easy to find.
Well, that's good that you just said that because you know what? In all honesty, Servo and I had a little bet going down before you showed up, and I said, you know what? I'll pay you $20, and I'm gonna fire Coop right on the spot if he says it's Sky Moore season. But since you didn't say that, I feel a lot better about the whole thing. The Rashee Rice bit definitely took that sting off of it.
Sorry, sir. Sorry to cost you $20 there, Servo.
Rashee Rice. It's Rashee Rice season instead.
It is. Nice
I'll
season,
take
baby.
Rashee Rice season all day long.
Rashee Jerry Rice.
This guy was a stud in college. Yeah. Jerry.
Right.
Yeah. Jerry. He's got the Rice name working for him already.
Yeah, it can't be wrong.
All right.
I think we lost Servo. All right.
He's too excited. Too excited about Rashee Rice, man.
He's like,
needs more bandwidth.
Show us you want to make a bet without showing us you want to make a bet.
That's right, dude. I'm taking over the show. Sorry, because I didn't say Sky Moore, Servo is actually the one that got fired. I'm now going. It's like Highlander. There can only be one.
That's all good. Coop, before we let you scooch on out of here, again, I don't want to keep you. Tell everybody out there where they can read all your stuff, where they can follow you. Obviously, your Twitter handle's on the screen, and you're plastered all over the Bettor Sports Network. But, go ahead. Give us the spiel.
If people watching, I know some people are listening. If you're watching, you can see it's written all over Howard's hat and shirt. FantasyAlarm.com. Just click the NFL tab. Half the articles there are by me, and the other half are written by very smart people too. So check every single one out. And this week coming up, the world famous tight end series starting tomorrow with the Elite. We're doing Elite. Last year what I did is I wrote the big tight end Bible that has all the information in it. So now we just give you what you want: the Elite, the fades, and then the yin and yang tight end. So that's all coming to wrap up the draft guide. Make sure if you haven't got that draft guide yet, it's crazy not to, because we update everything regularly. It's all there, and everything coming out next is going to be there. So there's no reason to wait. Get it right now. It's on Fantasy Alarm, $26.99.
Awesome. Coop, thanks so much for joining us, man. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you for sure.
See you, Coop. Thanks.
Cheers. Take it easy, boys.
Right. Sorry, I got a little disconnected there, I think. But yeah, awesome stuff from Coop. Just using player prop totals is like something that people don't really think about doing, but it just you can be very profitable. Yeah, and you can be very profitable either way, whether you're using it for fantasy or for betting. So yeah,
I'm gonna tell him to add to his tight end series because he's so great with the tight ends. Yeah, just add to the tight. Give me top 5 over-unders on tight end props. I don't care, receptions, yards, whatever you want to do, but give me just your top 5 overs or unders, doesn't matter. And we'll make sure that we get that out to everybody who subscribes over at Fantasy Alarm. We might even talk about it here on this show. We might.
I would if he's coming out with that. I would talk about that. All right, let's flip gears back to baseball here for just a couple more segments here before we let you go. But let's talk about our plus money picks for tonight and our Diamond Dogs for tonight's slate. Oh, Maybe we don't have the intro here, but all right. So Howard, what do you got for your
Do you want me to
dog?
sing a couple of hum a few bars of that? Do you just want me to go?
We could just bark for a little bit.
All right. Well, you alluded to my diamond dog earlier in the show. I'm staying on the Texas Rangers against Brandon Bielak, and I don't even know, like the rest of that Houston bullpen. You're going to give me plus 105 on over 4.5 runs when the Texas Rangers have averaged 5 runs per game over their last, I don't know, 12 to 15 games or something like that. They've averaged over 5 runs. So, give me a plus 105 against Bielak. I think that's the way to go.
I like that a lot. I mean, that'll help my full game over in this one. But yeah, the Rangers side of things against Bielak and the Astros bullpen, which has been, kind of in the bottom tier since the All-Star break. They've struggled a little bit. So I like that team total for sure. And you mentioned like maybe a little bit more pause going against Gray than Bielak in that game. So I think that the Rangers side of things is where I feel more confident about. All right, my diamond dog for tonight, I'm going with Kenta Maeda over 6.5 strikeouts at plus money, plus 124. It's risky here getting to 7+ for him, but he's been really trending up since he returned from the injured list in June. He's got 36 strikeouts over his 26 1/3 innings in this stretch over 5 starts, averaging over 7 strikeouts per outing here. 2.73 ERA too in this stretch since returning from the IL. And he's got this Mariners offense, which continues to strike out a ton against right-handed pitching. It's just
crazy.
It's just the thing that's been happening all season long. It hasn't stopped. 26% strikeout rate versus righties overall this year, second worst behind the Twins, ironically. But since the All-Star break, a 28% strikeout rate against righties, even worse, a low 8% walk rate as well. Maeda just faced Seattle last time out. Had 9 strikeouts over 6 1/3, pretty good innings there. I think he can get to 7+ here. He struck out 8+ Ks in 3 of his last 5 starts. I mentioned this strong stretch here, so I like him to keep it going here. I'll get plus money to have at least 7 strikeouts.
Yeah, Seattle's whiff rate. I mean, it can't all be Eugenio Suarez, can it? I mean, it seems like it might be, but yeah, dude, they strike out so much. It's absolutely bonkers. So, I mean, listen, yeah, if you're you might as well for plus 124 on FanDuel. I mean, if you're not gonna like over bet this anyway because it's plus odds, but if you throw a unit on there, is that the end of the world that he comes in with 6 strikeouts? No. But if he pops that over because Seattle's just brutal, well, then I'm there for it, man. I like it. I like it a lot.
All right. So so those are our diamond dogs. And we got our home run calls to give out to you guys. So our daily dingers for Monday night.
Now that's a dinger.
All right, I'm going to a team that I absolutely crapped on earlier in this show when we started talking Guardians versus the Royals. Oh, no, I know. We were talking about Bielak. And Bielak with his 2 amazing outings against the Colorado Rockies. But I'll tell you what, you got one pitcher on the mound tonight who's almost as much, if not more, than Brandon Bielak, and that is Patrick the Turd Burger Corbin. Dude serves up home runs left and right, 3 home runs allowed in his last 3 games. Yes, he's had a couple of decent outings. His 3 of his last 4 outings, but when that dude gets beaten up, that dude gets beaten up. And here you go, Randall Grichuk. Go figure, Randall Grichuk. He's got a 413 weighted on base average against left-handed pitching, and that comes with a 989 OPS and a 254 isolated power mark. So wow. I don't give a crap if he goes 1 for 8 in this game or whatnot, as long as that 1 is the home run. And at plus 425,
Think I'm getting any plus money odds for a home run against Patrick Corbin is not bad.
I couldn't believe it was 425. I was like, oh, I'm gonna check out what the home run prop total is on this one here, thinking that they're gonna be like plus 270 or something like that. Nope, 425.
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad.
It's because the Rockies suck.
Yeah, the Rockies. Yeah, who knows? The Rockies probably won't win that game with Corbin, but they might score plenty of runs. All right, my home run call. I'm going with Nolan Gorman for the Cardinals here. He's been hot since the All-Star break. 367 batting average, 767 slug, 3 homers in these 9 games. 17 of his 20 home runs this season. He's got 20 homers now. 17 of those have come against right-handed pitching, and he's got Ryan Nelson on the mound for Arizona, who's allowed 6 home runs over his past 4 starts combined. He's also got terrible home numbers this year, an 8.08 ERA, and also just a 357 batting average allowed at home as well. So I think he's going to run into trouble, even though the Cardinals are very hit or miss, up and down. But I think Gorman can go deep here. So plus 330 on DraftKings, I'll take it.
Yeah, listen, I was debating whether or not I've got Gorman in a bunch of fantasy leagues, right? And the dude was money in the bank to start the season, and then all of a sudden, I guess it was like June when the guy just took a dump on himself, and he was striking out way too much. He was batting like 130 or something like that. But he's hitting over 300 over the last 2 weeks right now.
Yeah,
he's throwing a little bit of power in there. So they didn't post odds on this game, on this St. Louis Arizona game, early on in the morning when I was looking at it, because I was eyeballing this whole game for the over. And I would probably still do it. I don't know what it's at right now, the over, the line on this one, but Waino and Nelson, yeah, sorry, I'm in on that. So Gorman hitting a home run off of Nelson, I'll sprinkle a little something on that, Servo.
Yeah, it's 9.5, and it's minus 122 the over. So it's
I'll take
up.
The over.
Yeah,
lock it in.
I mean, who knows what you're going to get with Wainwright tonight, right? So
I know. I know what you're going to get from Wainwright tonight. You're going to get 3 2/3 with 6 earned runs.
Yeah, he's not going longer than 5 innings, so we know that. In his first start back from the IL, so yeah, the over looks like the smart bet there, and yeah, it's trending that way. And the Diamondbacks are minus 155 on the money line too, so we'll probably get the most runs from the D-back side of things there, but I'm still going Gorman to go deep. All right, so those are all our picks for tonight's slate this Monday night. Plenty of stuff. We, go back and watch if you missed any of it. We got some, plus money picks out there. We got props. We got money lines, run lines, all that good stuff. So appreciate everyone joining here, and we'll be back tomorrow at 4:00 Eastern. As we do every day here. By the way, coming up after us, 5 p.m. Eastern, Quick Pitch MLB DFS live show with John and Pemba and James Grande giving you guys the DFS advice. And at 6 p.m. Eastern, Alarm Fantasy Baseball podcast with Matt Sells and Colby Conway. Howard, it's been real. We'll have you back later this week. But tomorrow we'll be back at 4 p.m. Eastern to give you guys more picks. Thank you guys, and good luck tonight. See ya.